Welcome to Book of Recap. The driver who lives in a condo in Echo Park, Los Angeles, has no name and no indications of any genuine individual life. He scarcely talks and seldom shows any genuine feelings. The driver works fixing vehicles and is a Hollywood trick driver by day and an escape driver for crooks around evening time. The vehicles the driver utilizes are given by his guide-in-chief, Shannon, an injured, cleaned-up body retailer. On criminal missions, everything he does is drive. He doesn't design any of the highest subtleties and he doesn't convey a weapon. He gives his customers a brief window to pull off their occupations and get back in the vehicle. Assuming that they do their occupations right and are out in a short time, then at that point, the driver ensures a protected, effective escape. The driver lives in a subtle high-rise, in an inadequately embellished room, a few doors down from an appealing young lady named Irene and her 6-year-old child Benicio. One day, the driver assists when Irene's vehicle stalls and she welcomes him back home. Over a glass of water, she clarifies that her better half, Standard, is in jail and she is bringing up her child alone. In the interim, Shannon needs to acquire $300,000 from Bernie Rose, a predatory lender, to put resources into a race car that he needs the driver to race. After a preliminary at a nearby circuit, Rose is dazzled with the driver's abilities and consents to the thought. Less dazzled is Nino, a huge, merciless hooligan, and Bernie's sidekick. The driver begins investing a great deal of energy with Irene and Benicio. He fosters a certifiable bond with Benicio, and the science and fascination among Irene and him forms into an implicit sentiment. Out of the blue, Irene gets a call from her significant other's lawyer that he is being set free from jail in a multi-week. Standard returns home and is demonstrated to be a good person who laments the activities that put him in prison. Irene and the driver attempt to reach terms with a conclusion to their brief friendship. Standard observes Irene conversing with the driver and faculty something. However, rather than feeling undermined, he invites the driver. One day, the driver observes Standard beaten severely in the structure's parking garage. The aggressors were from Standard's past business, Cook, who needs him to pull off a Sunshine pawn shop theft as recompense for insuring him in jail. The driver offers to help when he hears that Irene and Benicio might be at serious risk, assuming Standard doesn't collaborate. Cook lets them know that the pawn shop is relied upon to have around $40,000 in real money. Standard has been informed that he is a liberated person, assuming the occupation goes off true to form. Going with the driver and Standard is Cook's partner, Blanche. While the driver holds up in the parking garage, he sees another vehicle veer up in the parking garage a distance away. The forlorn Blanche gets back with a weighty pack, and the two trust that Standard will return. Unexpectedly, Standard runs out and is shot absurdly by the pawn retailer. The driver rapidly drives out of the parking garage even as they are sought after and almost killed by the vehicle that was in the parking area. The driver executes some deft driving and figures out how to get away from the followers. Hanging out at an inn a while later, the driver understands that the taken cash is more similar to $1 million. The driver and Blanche watch a news report about the second-hand store burglary, which makes reference to that the business person didn't announce anything is taken. The driver is dubious and powers Blanche to uncover whether they were set up and by whom. She concedes that she was in on it with Cook, whose genuine name is Chris. While Blanche is in the washroom, her wireless goes off. The driver understands that Blanche has uncovered their area to Chris, who has sent hired gunmen to kill him. One of the assassins kills Blanche, and the driver figures out how to kill the two hired gunmen and get away. The driver goes to a nearby strip joint looking for Chris. Utilizing a mallet to beat in his grasp, the driver powers Chris to admit that Nino set up the heist and he needed both Standard and the driver dead. The cash has a place with the East Coast crowd, and Nino realizes that the horde will come after him, assuming they discovered who took their cash. So he tells Bernie Rose that Shannon, Irene, Benicio, and the driver are the main connections back to him and should pass on. Bernie consents to this arrangement hesitantly, and in return, mercilessly kills Chris for wrecking the first arrangement of killing the driver. The driver offers Irene the cash so she can move away from the city with her child, yet she slaps him since his proposition affronts her. As they are talking, Nino's hired gunman shows up in the condo lift. They get into the lift and the driver understands that the man is here to kill them. The driver gets Irene and gives her an enthusiastic kiss before incapacitating the contract killer and stepping his head in. Irene is unnerved to see this side of the driver. In the meantime, Shannon had been cautioned by the driver to escape town, yet before he can, Rose appears at his carport and kills him. The driver observes his companion's dead body sitting in his very own pool of blood. The driver takes off after Nino. He follows the vehicle and backsides it before pummeling hard into the backside. The limo is sent tumbling over a little bluff onto an abandoned ocean side. Nino is as yet alive and creeps out of the vehicle away from the driver, yet the driver gets him and suffocates him in the ocean. He then, at that point, calls Rose to let him know that Nino is dead. Realizing the driver thinks often just about is the security of Irene and Benicio, Rose proposes a gathering at a cafe where the driver can hand over the cash in return for Irene and Benicio's. The driver settles on an official conclusion to Irene, to tell her the amount he appreciated investing energy with her and Benicio, and that they won't ever see him again. The driver and Rose meet at a cafe. They continue to the parking garage where the driver gives up the money. As he hands it over, Rose threatens to use a blade and wounds the driver in the mid-region, yet the driver pulls his own blade, similarly as fast, and cuts Rose in the neck. The driver figures out how to get in his vehicle and drive out of the parking area, abandoning Rose's dead body, close to the open sack of money. There is an injection of Irene thumping ideally at the driver's condo entryway, however he isn't there. The last shot is of the driver draining severely, cruising through the city roads around evening time, paying attention to music. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, I will say stay safe and stay healthy.